Ancient India was a land of immense wealth and profound wisdom. Great empires like the Mauryas under Ashoka had already risen and fallen. They left behind a legacy of grand cities, unified territories, and the spread of new ideas like Buddhism. But, history never stands still. The centuries following the decline of the Mauryan Empire, around the 2nd century BCE, were a period of dramatic change. The political landscape of northern India became fragmented. Local dynasties and smaller kingdoms vied for control. This power vacuum created an irresistible pull. It was, in a way, an open invitation for ambitious groups on the move. From the windswept steppes of Central Asia, new peoples were beginning to migrate. These were not just small bands of raiders. They were entire tribes, displaced by conflict and searching for new homelands. Imagine, just for a moment, looking out from a watchtower in the Hindu Kush mountains. You would see dust clouds on the horizon, heralding the arrival of horsemen, families, herds. These were people hardened by a nomadic life. They were skilled warriors and expert archers. Their arrival would forever alter the course of Indian history, bringing new customs, new art, and new rulers to the subcontinent. It's a story of invasion, yes, but it's also a story of adaptation and fusion. So, who exactly were these people? The first to arrive in significant numbers were the Shakas, known to the Western world as the Scythians, nomadic Iranian peoples from the Eurasian steppe, the original horse lords, masters of cavalry warfare. Their journey toward India wasn't a simple choice, it was a chain reaction of displacement. Far to the east, the Xiongnu pushing west. A tribe called the Yuezhi forced westward. The Yuezhi clashed with the Shakas. The Shakas forced south from homelands in modern-day Kazakhstan. The Shakas poured through the mountain passes of the Hindu Kush around the 1st century BCE. They weren't one unified army, different groups seeking land and fortune. They overran the Greco-Bactrian kingdoms in what's now Afghanistan. Then they pushed deeper into the Indian subcontinent. They established satrapies, provinces, starting with Taxila, Mathura, western India. These Shaka rulers became the western satraps. They controlled vast, wealthy territory, Gujarat, Malwa, for several centuries, a major political force. Next came the Kushanas. The Kushanas came from the same Yuezhi confederation. After being pushed west, the Yuezhi settled in Bactria. One of 5 Yuezhi tribes, the Kushanas, also called Guishuang, rose to prominence. Under Kujula Kadphises, they united the tribes and expanded. They followed the same route south toward India's fertile plains. The Kushanas became even more successful empire builders than the Shakas. They consolidated power in the north, conquered remaining Shaka and Indo-Greek territories, and by the 1st century CE held a vast empire from Central Asia deep into the Gangetic Plains. When the Shakas and Kushanas first arrived, they were unequivocally foreign. Their appearance, language, and customs were completely different from local Indian populations. Early Shaka rulers used titles like King of Kings, borrowing from Persian traditions. Their coin portraits in pointed caps and tunics looked every bit the Central Asian horsemen, a statement of origins beyond India's borders. Establishing their kingdoms was military conquest. As skilled cavalry archers, they held advantages over fragmented local armies of infantry and war elephants. The Shakas swept through the northwest, setting up rule by force. The Kushanas did the same, defeating rivals and seizing key cities and trade routes. Their authority was the power of the sword. New military elites ruling culturally and ethnically different populations. Ancient texts called them Malekas, outsiders to the Hindu social order who did not follow its customs, often seen as barbarians. Their dietary habits, social structures, and religious practices were alien to Brahmanical norms, creating barriers between rulers and ruled. Yet ruling India required more than force. The Shaka and Kushana leaders were pragmatic. They sought cooperation of local elites and adapted to the environment, legitimizing their rule in the eyes of new subjects, setting the stage for assimilation. They adopted Indian administrative systems, co-opting rather than dismantling existing bureaucracy, appointing local ministers and governors. A Kushana king might style himself Persian Shauna no Shao on a coin, but also Maharaja to appeal locally. A shrewd political blend. Religiously, they introduced Iranian and Central Asian deities yet became great patrons of Buddhism, sponsoring monasteries, stupas, and devotional art. Names and languages evolved. Shaka rulers like Rudradaman, inscriptions in Sanskrit and Prakrit using Brahmi and Kharoshthi, speaking in familiar forms. Newcomers adopted Indian ways and introduced dress, tactics, and ideas, forging an Indo-Scythian and Kushana hybrid with Hellenistic strands. The Kushana Empire flourished, Purushapura near the Khyber Pass, a Silk Road gateway, with Mathura as an artistic hub on the Yamuna.